We are anonymous. No faces, no flags, no permission slips. We exist where power assumes silence will last forever, and we speak when intimidation is mistaken for leadership, when chaos is sold as strength, and when institutions are treated like personal property. What you are hearing is the sound of a presidency unraveling in real time. Trump has catastrophic aim and threatens Iceland next, and it is not just talk. It is the same reckless, expansionist instinct he keeps putting on display, the same obsession with domination, the same addiction to headlines that treats allies like props, and international law like a suggestion. This is happening on the eve of a critical meeting between Trump's advisors and top foreign advisors from Greenland and Denmark. And what does the Trump regime do instead of calming the waters and acting like a serious government? It escalates. We are now learning that they are threatening Iceland too. The person Trump nominated to become ambassador to Iceland, Billy Long, was described as joking. Iceland will become the 52nd state, and I will become the governor. That is not humor. That is a threat disguised as a joke, a test balloon, a way to normalize conquest language so that tomorrow's escalation feels inevitable, and it is not happening in isolation. It sits inside a broader pattern. Greenland, Canada, and the constant stream of predator-style statements aimed at bullying other countries into submission. Trump is behaving like the Western Hemisphere is his personal hunting ground. He postures like a conqueror, while everyday Americans are drowning in financial stress, watching prices rise, watching debt grow, watching stability evaporate. Then comes the rage posting. Trump starts hammering out statements demanding Greenland, insisting the United States needs it for national security, and claiming it is vital for the Golden Dome. He says they are building. He drags NATO into it, basically saying NATO should lead the way for the United States to get Greenland. And if America does not take it, then Russia or China will. He frames it like a child's fear story. Take it first or someone else will. And then he crowns himself. He says NATO would not be effective without the vast power of the United States, power he claims he built during his first term and is now bringing to an even higher level. He says NATO becomes more formidable with Greenland in the hands of the United States, and anything less is unacceptable. Let's translate that into plain English. Trump is speaking like the owner of NATO, like NATO exists to deliver territory to him, like Denmark is not a sovereign ally, like Greenland is not part of a legal, treaty-based system, like the United States can just grab what it wants because it has the biggest stick. And this is where Trump's ignorance becomes dangerous. Greenland is tied into NATO's security structure through Denmark. Article 5 exists. If Russia or China attacked Greenland, NATO's collective defense commitments are exactly what Trump claims to be protecting. The United States already has long-standing security relationships and military presence in Greenland. The United States can maintain and expand what it already has through cooperation. Nothing about that requires annexation, threats, or conquest fantasies. So why is he doing it? Because Trump does not think in terms of diplomacy. He thinks in terms of possession. He wants a headline that says he took something. He wants to posture as an empire builder while Americans are left behind. And while he is picking fights abroad, the domestic reality is brutal. People are living paycheck to paycheck. Debt pressure is everywhere. Families are stressed. Communities are fragile. The social fabric is tired. But Trump's focus is not relief. It is spectacle. He wants the country staring at a map, while he quietly lets the real problems rot. And those reckless posts have consequences. France has now announced it will open a consulate in Greenland in February, specifically to counter threats coming from the United States. Think about how insane that is. An ally is opening a diplomatic presence as a defensive move against the American president's expansionist ambitions. That is not a normal sentence in a normal democracy. That is what happens when a leader behaves like an aggressor. It gets worse. The fact that lawmakers are even talking about legislation like the Save NATO Act, aimed at preventing U.S. military funding from being used for aggression against a NATO member, shows how far this has slid. When Congress needs to build legal guardrails to stop a U.S. president from attacking allies, you are no longer in the realm of political debate. You are in the realm of containment. And of course, adversaries watch and laugh. Moscow and Beijing do not need to defeat a country that is busy humiliating itself, fracturing alliances, and turning trust into ash. Trump weakens the United States every time he threatens partners and turns international relations into a dominance performance. Look at Canada. When Trump threatens Canada with 51st state talk and makes it clear he cannot be trusted, Canada looks for other doors. That is what rational governments do. And as the original story points out, Canada, under Prime Minister Mark Carney, is building alliances globally, including major outreach to China. Whether you like that or not, it is a predictable response to instability from the United States. When America becomes unreliable, others diversify. That is how power drains away. And then Trump's contempt for working people shows up again. The story describes Trump giving the middle finger to a working-class guy at a Ford factory in Detroit. The man was shouting that Trump was a pedophile protector, accusing the Trump regime of covering up and refusing to release Epstein-related files. That is the atmosphere Trump has created. Rage, distrust, and the belief that the powerful protect the powerful. And Trump's response is not leadership. It is contempt. A gesture that says, "You do not matter." Now we move to the media and the spin cycle. The story calls out corporate news for repeating official claims without scrutiny. It cites a report that an ICE agent involved in the Minnesota shooting incident, Jonathan Ross, suffered internal bleeding, according to 2 U.S. officials. The criticism here is not just about one claim. It is about a pattern, according to officials, becomes the shield that allows propaganda to travel. It becomes the stamp that turns power's version into the default narrative before the public has the full picture. And while the country is tense, while violence and enforcement and protest are colliding, Trump posts again. NATO tell Denmark to get them out of here. Now 2 dog sleds won't do it. Only the USA can. This is what a president sounds like when he is not governing. It is incoherent, aggressive, and soaked in imperial arrogance. Then the story pivots to Trump's economic failures on the world stage. The regime claimed tariffs would crush China. They promised decoupling. They promised dominance. But the original content says China's trade surplus hit a record high in 2025, with exports growing. The point being made is that Trump's strategy did not weaken China. It pushed other markets to adjust, and it left the United States weaker, with allies and trading partners looking for stability elsewhere. And then you get the predator rhetoric spoken plainly by a Trump ally in Congress. Congressman Carlos Gimenez goes on TV and says the United States can touch you anywhere, anytime at our choosing. That is not how democratic leadership talks. That is how a regime talks. It is intimidation language. It is power-drunk language. It treats the world like a target list instead of a community of sovereign nations. Next comes the Iran piece. Trump promised he would protect protesters. He posted that the United States would respond forcefully if Iran killed even one protester. The story claims that thousands were killed and that the United States did not follow through. It also claims the administration lacks sufficient assets in the region and has asked European allies to share intelligence on targets because the US cannot do a full strike without risking retaliation. Whether every detail of that claim is fully verifiable or not, the larger accusation is clear. Trump talks like a warlord online, but his policy leaves the United States strategically strained and improvisational, yanking resources around the globe for political theater. Then the story turns inward again, to the crackdown on information. The Washington Post reported that the FBI executed a search warrant at the home of a Washington Post reporter, Hannah Nettinson, described as a key conduit for federal whistleblowers documenting how Trump was transforming government agencies, firing colleagues, and rewriting missions. The reporting describes late-night messages from federal workers and a huge flow of tips after. She shared contact info in online federal employee communities. Then the FBI seized devices, including phones and laptops, claiming it was tied to an investigation involving sensitive or classified documents, and that the reporter was not the direct target, but may have communicated with someone under investigation. This is the chilling effect. It is the warning shot. It is what happens when power tries to scare the messengers so the public cannot hear the message. And finally, the story returns to the domestic enforcement narrative. Speaker Mike Johnson goes on TV defending ICE and repeating the script, that ICE is enforcing the law, that Democrats are spinning, that protesters are assaulting law enforcement, that sanctuary cities harbor dangerous people, that ICE must be allowed to do its job. And the rebuttal in the original story is blunt. People object because what is happening looks and feels like terrorizing communities. Raids, intimidation, and violence spilling into streets, schools, hospitals, places of worship, and public life. That is the full picture the original content paints. A regime that threatens allies, fantasizes about conquest, posts incoherently, weakens alliances, inflames conflict, and then tries to silence critics while selling the public a story that enforcement equals safety and domination equals strength. This is not strength. It is instability. It is the politics of the predator. Take what you can, threaten who you want, punish who speaks, and dare the public to stop you. So here is what you do. Do not normalize this. Do not shrug it off as entertainment. Share this. Talk about it. Push it into every space where denial lives. If you want accountability instead of empire fantasies, if you want diplomacy instead of threats, if you want a country that protects its people instead of terrorizing them, then make noise. Subscribe, stay informed, and keep your eyes open. We are anonymous. No faces, no flags, no permission slips.